Hi, everybody. Harry here to talk about Mike Pence's anticipated resistance to the subpoena from special counsel Jack Smith. Now, everyone has been speculating since Smith dropped the subpoena on Pence that Pence might in fact try to object and raise executive privilege. That seemed like the obvious objection. I, among others, have been emphatic that it's a losing claim. It's a losing claim for many reasons. The last two are that Biden has waived executive privilege, so not clear he could even assert it, Pence. And even if he could, the claim loses because it has to yield under the unanimous opinion in U.S. versus Richard Nixon some 50 years ago that a demonstrated need for specific evidence in a criminal investigation trumps the confidentiality concerns of executive privilege. And that is surely what we have, because the conversations we're talking about that only Pence can provide, besides Trump, who of course won't, is a likely target here, are these one-on-ones, most especially the phone calls and one conversation off the wings of the Oval Office that others have testified about and were obviously incredibly heated. We know that Trump says, if you don't do this, I've picked the wrong guy. He browbeats him. He calls him a wimp. He calls him worse, vulgar terms that must make the pure as driven snow Mike Pence blanch to his bones. And he, among other things, engages in a pretty clear criminal effort to defraud the United States by getting Pence to violate the law and not certify as he's constitutionally obligated to do. All right, everyone's been waiting for that. This morning, the other shoe dropped, however. Pence indicated that he is going to challenge the subpoena, but he's going to do it on, hang in there, the speech or debate clause. The what? That's the clause that provides protection for legislative officials, yeah? Well, Pence's clever gambit here, and I suspect, by the way, they developed this as they were negotiating with DOJ, and Pence's lawyer said, this is what we're going to argue, and we can tie things up for a while. The speech or debate clause says that legislators can't be arrested or held to account for anything they do in speech and debate on the floor. So if they're engaging in legislative speech or legislative acts, they can't be arrested for it, they can't be interrupted, etc. What the heck does that have to do with Mike Pence? Remember, the Constitution assigns him the role as president of the Senate. So he's saying he's a Senate official here, and therefore speech or debate applies. A couple problems. First, as I've said, there isn't that much interpreting the speech or debate clause, and that's ultimately the big point, is that he may be able to delay things, but he shouldn't prevail. Speech or debate, there is almost nothing in which he's acting less as a legislator. Then this isn't about when he's presiding over a vote or anything. It's rather his conversations one-on-one with Trump. So, he wears a couple hats, but he can't wear them simultaneously. And when he's talking in the testimony that Smith really wants, that's like vice president to president. That's, down the middle executive privilege stuff. You may read, by the way, that the Department of Justice has previously asserted that Pence is protected by speech or debate. That's just doesn't apply, though. That's a case in which he was being challenged for the certification of the votes on the 6th, an obvious legislative act, legislative speech, exactly not what Smith is now seeking. Problem is, there's not much law on this out there, and I think it's the right answer, but it's way more likely than for the executive privilege claim, which the federal courts have made quick work of, and recently for Pat Cipollone, Pat Philbin. They don't have the same blueprint that's just so well written over, and very possibly they wind up calling for briefing, and they have oral argument. They're going to have to make careful decisions that will then go up on appeal. Same thing happens there, and potentially the U.S. Supreme Court. So the bottom line here is it's possible that Pence's gambit will force Smith to a choice by having enough of a delay that Smith either has to forego Pence's testimony or wait on it and possibly, use it and bring it in the middle of a presidential campaign against at least the person who is now the front runner. So, as always, Trump's wickedness and complete ability to do whatever the hell he wants brings us into the craziest kind of constitutional realm. But here, if you are one and kind of who shares, growing frustration at delay, this seems to me, this legal strategy, different from what we anticipated, shouldn't win, but it likely will mean for more delay, and that is a drag. Oh, and by the way, Trump can still, and being Trump probably will, parachute into the case and raise the executive privilege claim. Shouldn't prevail, as I've said, but he's got one little potential card to play, which is he's a former president, and Justice Brett Kavanaugh has indicated that maybe a former president should have some protection by executive privilege. And this is a good case, I think, to decide that, even though I want to emphasize that wouldn't mean the executive privilege claim would prevail. It would just mean he could bring it, but it would fail under the strength of Nixon. I do not see the Supreme Court changing that. All right, what a tangled web we weave. Pence is going to, challenge, but not as we anticipated, and maybe real delay ensues. If you're gnashing your teeth, I join you. Okay, hey, if you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. Helps us out. We are, totally independent. But bottom line on this story, Pence switching horses to a legislative speech or debate argument shouldn't prevail, but maybe, a real delay. And maybe, by the way, that's what he's going for. Think of his political kind of calculations. On the one hand, if he testifies against Trump and a case is made soon, that really clears the field of the dominant challenger, of his dominant, opponent, who is really now his opponent. Another irony here is the two former running mates basically, I think, mistrust or despise each other. But I think it's the case that whoever is going to be the 2024 nominee, starting with Trump, must secure the 30 to 32% of the voters who are just completely have bottomless attachment and loyalty to Trump. And so Pence may well have concluded that even the upsides of A, harming his opponent, and B, just getting this out of the way, and so it's not hovering over him, it wouldn't be enough to say, well, I got subpoenaed here. The Trump faithful would expect him to fight tooth and nail to the very end, and if he doesn't, they would not transfer their support to him. That could well have been his calculation. All right. Anyway, we're going to see soon. There's two big events to come. And first is the challenge. What does he file? What does it say? And second, does Trump get in the fray, but arguing executive privilege? So we'll be looking out for that. And when it comes, I'll be here to give you my 2 cents. Until then, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.